Thank you. And yeah, we'll just get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Traditional Chinese Medicine and Asian Medicine Development Summit. This event is hosted by Hopkins Asian Medicine Student Club, Columbia University Medical Center Chinese Students and Scholars Association, and Johns Hopkins Integrative Medicine Society. We have collaborated and worked on planning this event for a very long time, and we sincerely hope you enjoy today's event and learn something interesting things. Now we will first briefly introduce organizations. First, allow me to introduce Hopkins Asian Medicine, or in brief, HAM. HAM is a student club at Johns Hopkins University that focuses on exploring and learning about the history, social impact, theories, and mechanisms of traditional Asian medicine. Our club was started in the spring of 2020 by a group of students in a class on traditional medicine, East and West, taught by Dr. James Flowers, who is also one of our speakers today. Next up, we have Columbia University Medical Center, CISA. CC, if you will.
The Columbia University Irving Medical Center Chinese Students and Scholars Association, CUMC-CISA, is the only official Chinese Students and Scholars Association organization within the medical center that is accredited by both Columbia University and the Chinese Consulate General in New York. We are committed to serving Chinese students and scholars, holding some online and in-person activities to enrich the social, academic, and professional experiences of Chinese students and scholars and promote the exchange of Chinese and American cultures.
Thank you. Next, we have the Johns Hopkins Integrative Medicine Society. Is Shang-Yuan here in the meeting room? Okay, it appears our collaborator is experiencing internet issues, so we will introduce them instead for now. Johns Hopkins Integrative Medicine Society is a recently established community based at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, aiming to explore integrative medicine through advocacy, research, and practices. Their missions are to encourage people in the Hopkins community to learn more about integrative medicine, to promote global equity of health and research, and to strengthen the bridge between the public health and integrative medicine. Before we officially introduce the speakers, we would like to welcome Dr. James Flowers for an opening speech.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you to the organizers for holding this meeting. Thank you to the speakers for making the time today. And thank you to the audience for taking your time out to participate. So I'm quite familiar with the Hopkins Asian Medicine Club. The members they are undergraduate students, mostly majoring in science and biomedical engineering. As far as I know, this is a new phenomenon, which means university students who are not East Asian medicine students or Chinese medicine students, but on their own initiative, created an informal group, which soon transformed into an official Johns Hopkins student club. Through democratic process, they then elected office bearers who formed a leadership team. At the time in 2020, I thought that COVID and the lockdown would probably mean the organization would lose momentum. Well, on the contrary, COVID energized the students to step up activities. The first meeting saw the group invite outside speakers, such as professors involved in Chinese medicine in the US and China. However, as early as mid-2020, students themselves also became speakers at the regular seminars. And these ranged from applying scientific research in Chinese medicine to Taoist healing ritual in medicine in present-day US and China. Now, in this series of seminars, today's event is the second international meeting with multiple speakers. So I'd just like to give my plaudits to this group of students. And secondly, the Hopkins Asian Medicine Club made a point of inclusiveness across the traditional medicines of Asia, including medical practice from multiple countries and regions. Now, I'm sure that everyone in the audience knows that Chinese medicine continues as a major form of healthcare in China alongside biomedicine. However, it has grown into a global medical phenomenon with bodies such as the WHO working to better understand it. Well, eschewing an East-West binary For example, the Australian federal government includes Chinese medicine within its regulatory purview in terms of education and clinical practice. In the US, the National Institutes of Health spend considerable federal funds to employ researchers to better understand Chinese medicine. Prestigious medical institutions such as Hopkins, Memorial Sloan Kettering, the Cleveland Clinic, UCLA, Harvard, and more host programs in both Chinese medicine research and practice. Across Asia, including Korea, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, you name it, traditional therapies sit comfortably within high-tech, science-focused communities. Okay, yes, despite the success of East Asian medicine doctors providing therapies for millions of patients from conditions including, well, COVID, stroke, cancer, psychological illnesses, physical injuries, even to the common cold. In the West, such massive evidence is relegated to usually, we're told this is anecdotal evidence. At best, we're tolerated as complementary medicine. Some professors of medicine even launched scathing attacks on East Asian medicine as superstition. They even argued that, well, we're just out for a money-making scam. If you look, for example, if you look up traditional Chinese medicine on Google, Wikipedia claims that traditional Chinese medicine is an alternative medical practice drawn from traditional medicine in China. Okay, that seems like a tautology to me, but then it gets worse. So I quote from Wikipedia, "It has been described as fraught with pseudoscience, with most of its treatments appearing to have no logical mechanism of action." Now you might ask, why did Wikipedia include that as the opening sentence? It then goes on to talk about the history of Chinese medicine, but makes sure to always intersperse its descriptions with random negative comments, including quotes from a range of scholars. Now, I understand that Wikipedia is an easy target for us to criticize. The problem is that many people get their information from it. The paradox here is that despite the Wikipedia style of soundbite knowledge, millions of people still seek out and use East Asian medicine. It seems not everyone believes Wikipedia. I think such a posting is cruel because it can keep people away from Chinese medicine that otherwise could get help. The cruelty is that in a time when we are told we need to live with COVID, Wikipedia ridicules a therapy that actually can save lives. Now, what do we do about this? Hopkins students tried to fix this problem, including Molly Lee and others. The members of the Hopkins Asian Medicine Club attempted to do some editing. Time and time again, the Wikipedia editors rebuffed them. So I think the Hopkins students deserve gratitude for trying to act in the public interest. Again, it's easy to blame Wikipedia, but I think the issue is more in political governance and the way education works. To be frank, we still live in a world in which the biomedicine establishment claims inherent superiority by default. Even in the midst of a pandemic, East Asian medicine is just too weird and foreign for many entirely well-meaning people. Now, I think I've spoken enough, so I hope this seminar is just the beginning of a conversation in which we think deeply about the problems in the way we teach and the ways in which we organize healthcare. The world did not do a good job in 2020 with COVID. It's a time for deep reflection. I need to stop here, but please have a good conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Flowers. As Dr. Flowers just mentioned, traditional Chinese medicine has a prolonged culture, and it has also played an important role in the recent pandemic. But we do realize that around the world, there is still a lot of unjustified opinions, to say the least, against traditional medicine in general. And we hope today's event can attract a lot of people's attention, and we hope to eventually pivot the society's opinion towards traditional Asian medicine and hope for it to be accepted and viewed from an objective aspect. So for today's event, we invited several brilliant and experienced speakers in the field of traditional Asian medicines, including historians, researchers, and practitioners. We would like for each of the speakers to briefly introduce themselves by alphabetical order of their last names. We will call out the order. Each speaker, if you can quickly give us a few words regarding your current work in traditional Asian medicine. First up, we will have Dr. Flowers again.
Okay, me again. So at present, I'm a research fellow in Kyung University. So I'm a historian of medicine who works on the history of medicine, mainly in the early modern to modern period in China, Korea, and a little bit of Japan. And I'm originally a Chinese medicine doctor who was practicing in Australia. I have a PhD in the history of medicine from Johns Hopkins. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers. Next, we have Dr. Jing Zhao. Dr. Jing, can you hear us? Sorry, am I okay? I'm muted. Yeah. Also, can we switch the slides to the speaker poster page? Thank you. Dr. Jing may be unable to communicate with us at the moment. We'll quickly introduce the speakers that are unavailable currently. As you can see on the poster here, Dr. Jing is a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Chengdu, China, and he has treated numerous patients, I think 3 digits at least, during the pandemic. So he is very experienced in the practicing and the research of traditional Chinese medicine, and this is the topic on which his speech would also be. Next, we have Dr. Luo Lu.
Hi, I am Luo Lu. I am an assistant researcher at the Institute of Chinese Material Medica, China Academy of Chinese Medical Sciences. I'm recently doing my postdoc at Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center in Georgetown University Medical Center. I'm mostly doing biochemistry, molecular biology research on herbal medicines. Very glad to be able to join this conference tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Luo. We next have Dr. Sun Yiguo.
Hi, I'm Sun Yiguo from Longhua Teaching Hospital. I'm a neurology physician. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. We have next Dr. Daniel Chambayolo.
Yes, hello. I'm Daniel Chambayolo. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Hong Kong. I'm a historian. I study the history of medicine in Japan, in particular Chinese-style medicine, so-called Kanpo in Japan, with a main focus on the early modern period, the Tokugawa period in the 18th, 19th centuries, as well as having an interest in the history of pharmaceuticals extending into the 19th and 20th centuries.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Xu Wenjie.
Good evening, and I'm Dr. Xu Wenjie from Shanghai University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and currently I teach Chinese medicine fundamentals and diagnosis at the International Education College, and I'm also joined the International Classification of Traditional Medicine of WHO for more than 10 years, and now I'm the managing editor for China, and also the member of the reference group of ICD-11 Chinese medicine chapter at WHO. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Xu. We next have Dr. Chen.
Hello everyone. I'm Yue Chen Zheng, and my English name is Daisy. I graduated from Zhejiang University, and I got my bachelor degree and my PhD degree Immunology from Zhejiang University in 2009, and I came to Shanghai University of Traditional Chinese Medicine to be a teacher, and then from 2016 to 2018, I went to Oxford University as an advanced visiting scientist, and now I'm a professor of immunology in my university, and I'm carrying out some projects about how to prevent and treat COVID-19 using traditional Chinese medicine, and to decipher the mechanism of Qingfei Baizhu decoction and similar herbal medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Last, we have Dr. Zhou. Dr. Zhou, can you hear us at the moment? Okay, we can quickly cover Dr. Zhou's background. So Dr. Zhou is Dr. Zhou is an affiliate of the Longhua Hospital, Shanghai University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He has received PhD training actually in biomedical science, and then continued to receive his postdoc training doing research in Chinese herb medicine with zebrafish model, and that will be the main topic of his presentation today. So thank you for all of the speakers' brief introduction of themselves. We realized that despite a lot of genuine interest in traditional medicine around the world, many people have not had the opportunity to systematically learn about traditional medicine, and their knowledge may have mostly come from news and conversations in bits and pieces. Therefore, today we invited Dr. Xu Wenjie to first give us an introduction to traditional medicine. Dr. Xu, can you share your screen?
Okay, good.
Yes.
And let's put the So my topic today will be a very brief introduction regarding the traditional Chinese medicine. So first, yeah. Okay, first I list 3 points here, and you can share your comments or opinions in the chat during or after my presentation, because according to the schedule, we still got a chance to have a discussion later. And speaking of the Chinese medicine or traditional medicines, I suppose you're quite familiar with the different approaches in terms of health intervention. I listed several points here regarding the treatment of Chinese medicine. I put preventive medicine as the first point because that firstly, the concept of preventive medicine is to treat the undiseased, which in Chinese language is a 治未病. It was raised very early in the history of Chinese medicine. For healthy people, the preventive medicine is to maintain the body's normal function, to enhance the body's resistance. For patients, the aim is to prevent progression of a certain disease by the transformation and the transmission, and to eventually effect a complete recovery. physical exercises, Tai Chi, 八段锦, and good dietary practices. We have medicated food and meditation. Internal medicine. We, for example, we apply different herbs to have this formula for specific health condition. And now we also have the patent Chinese medication, the pills, the capsule, syrups. Also, we also apply the herbs for external use, compress, suppository, ointment, plaster. Later I have some pictures to show you. And the rest of acupuncture, moxibustion, Chinese tuina, cupping, scraping. I suppose you're quite familiar with that. Some pictures. This is the physical exercises considered as the one way for the health cultivation or health prevention. 八段锦, medicated food. We also mixed with the herbs with the different dishes and the herbal tea. This is the herbal decoction. You're quite familiar with. You can decoct the different herbs prescribed by the doctors. You can decoct the herbs by yourself, or you can ask the hospital or private clinic to decoct the herbs for you with a free delivery. Granules is quite popular in the West. This is the example for the patent Chinese medication for different health conditions. External treatment, compress or plaster for joint pain, acupuncture, cupping, Chinese tuina, therapeutic massage, and scraping. This is different approaches in terms of health intervention. The Chinese medicine is the collection of thousands of years of Chinese history and culture. In China, Chinese medicine has developed into a unique theoretical and clinical science involving traditional medicine, natural sciences, and social sciences. In the West, in the States, in the European countries, Chinese medicine is better known through acupuncture, but I have introduced that this medicine encompasses much more than that. The field also has the herbal medicine, which is the main part, and the different approaches of health intervention I already showed you. So whether a practitioner is practicing herbs, acupuncture, or Chinese tuina, the fundamentals of Chinese medicine remains the same and vital to the clinical clinical success. So next, I would like to share some points regarding the theories and the concepts of Chinese medicine. The first part would be the foundation. The fundamentals of Chinese medicines serves as the foundation for the basic theories, facts, and methodology for Chinese medicine. It lays out a theoretical framework for the students' further study of diagnosis, Chinese herbs, acupuncture techniques, and different clinical disciplines of Chinese medicine. But unlike the constant innovation of conventional medicine, the Chinese medicine, no matter how advanced or sophisticated, always circles back to its ancient and fundamental paradigms, which I listed here. I listed 4 points here: holism, patterns and metaphors, direct and indirect observation, body and spirit. So for this reason, Chinese medicine fundamentals can be viewed as basic facts that the practitioner is always contemplating and refining through clinical experience. Holism. Holism is a philosophy that says any one phenomenon is larger than just itself, and that in medicine, any one part of the body has a relationship with not only the other part of the body, but with the whole of the outside world. Human beings are part of the universe of objects that are common in their origins with all other living things. Ancient Chinese philosophers and the early creators of Chinese medicine held that the universe is produced from Tao. The interaction of yin and yang, these two aspects, created a Tao that generated the universe, or we can universe, or what is called the heaven and earth. Heaven and earth. Human beings are said to exist between the heaven and the earth. The interaction of yin and yang created Tao, and the interaction of yin and yang also gives a shape and a form to everything in the universe. So the process of life inevitably modeled and impacted by the nature and the changes in the natural environment, either directly or indirectly, influence the human health and diseases. The second point is the patterns and the metaphors. With the observations of the phenomenon of the human life, the early creators of Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy developed the concepts of body constitutes. The body constitutes in Chinese medicine refer to the essence, jing, qi, blood, xue, and body fluids, jing ye, and their relationship between them. This developed into the idea of the zangfu organs and the meridians, the collateral systems. Eventually, pattern developed, and the treatment according to pattern identification became the major focus of our diagnosis and treatment. And the treatment based on pattern identification remains a unique contribution of Chinese medicine. I put an example here: three circles, three different disease names of conventional medicine: common cold, pneumonia, asthma. Take common cold as an example. The circle of common cold. So clinically, rather than treating the common cold, this disease in Chinese medicine, we're going to treat different patterns of common cold clinically. For example, phlegm heat pattern, phlegm dampness pattern, or wind cold exterior pattern. Metaphor, in order to explain the systems involved, certain metaphors applied to fundamental principles. The metaphors that appears over and over again are those of emperors, ministers, minister of the military, commercial, and the bureaucratic functions. For example, the heart, we say the heart is the emperor, it governs the spirit, the lung governs the waterways. And you see, this is well point. Even the name of an acupuncture point invokes the water, like the well, which the qi of the needle descends into and influences. We call this kind of acupoints, the well point. This is some examples regarding metaphor. Direct and indirect observation. Chinese people in ancient times, in order to explore the secrets of the relationship between human life and the natural environment, they applied two different observational methods. In the Yellow Emperors, in the classic Huangdi Neijing, this book considered as the Bible of the Chinese medicine, it is written that the body can be examined by anatomical methods after the person has died. So driven by the need to understand how to treat different health conditions, dissection allowed early Chinese medicine practitioners to see both the shape and the form of the internal organs and to begin to recognize some of their functions. So this is called the direct observation. But performing autopsies is not the only way to understand the human body. Although, can I say that the anatomical knowledge at that time in China was advanced in comparison to many other cultures, but it could not explain the concrete matters such as a specific a cause of the certain health condition or other abstract concepts that are necessary for treatment. So consequently, these early creators of Chinese medicine attempted to understand human life by conceptualizing it at its broadest and most organic whole. Still stick to the whole holism, the holistic way of observing the human body is called the indirect observation, and is applied through the theories of body constitutes the qi, blood, and the body fluids, yin, yang, or the 5 elements. We have the saying that external signs and symptoms can be correlated to changes in the internal organs. So the state of the internal organs is often reflected on the superficial part or surface of the body. So through the clinical observation, Chinese medicine recognized that one kind of pattern creates a group of approximately similar symptoms, and this group of symptoms correlates with dysfunctions of the particular internal organs. The last point is the body and the spirit. In Chinese medicine, the organs are all considered to be under the guidance of the heart. The heart stores and governs the spirit, Shen. Therefore, the heart can control and regulate all the functions of the body, that the person's emotional state influences the functions of the entire body. The body and the spirit depend on each other for their existence, even as they appear at times to constrain one another. The body is the structure that houses the spirit, and the spirit gives forces the body. The spirit gives expression to the body's life force. In Chinese language and culture, the human body refers to a unity, which includes body and the spirit. And from this viewpoint, the human is an inseparable body spirit. In this case, Chinese medicine makes concurrent use of both the body and the spirit for issues that might be seen as separate in Western culture and conventional medicine. The body itself is how can I say, is simply the more condensed version of the spirit. So although we may talk about the unity of body and the mind, the body and the spirit in Western culture and in some kinds of the conventional medicine, but in Chinese medicine and Chinese philosophy, these two have never been separated. Okay, so this is the 4 points I would like to share regarding the fundamental, the foundation of Chinese medicine. So eventually we have the two characteristics of Chinese medicine. One is holism, and the other one is treatment according to pattern identification. The second part is some concepts regarding the physiology of Chinese medicine. 脏腑 organs. This is our view of point regarding the internal organs in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, the 脏腑 organ system include 5 zang organs, 6 fu organs, and we also have the other 6 extraordinary fu organs. So all of the organs have both a structure which is quite similar as it in conventional medicine, but in Chinese medicine we also apply a functional aspect. So both a structure and a functional aspect, which creates the physiology of Chinese medicine. 脏腑 organ theory, or in Chinese language we call it 脏相, 脏腑 organ manifestation theory, states that both the healthy and diseased states of the internal organ manifest to the Chinese medicine practitioner. Therefore, we don't attempt to only understand the actual internal organs themselves, but also their manifestation of specific and much broader influences. Vital substances, or we call them body constitutes, and they are essence, qi, jing, qi, blood, 血, body fluids, 精液. These 4 terms are collectively called the vital substances, or body constitutes in Chinese medicine. They constitute the human body. In Chinese medicine, essence, qi, blood, and body fluids are the most important components of the body and the essential materials to maintain the various functions of the body. They circulate among all the internal organs to support the functions, and in turn, the internal organs produce, circulate, distribute, store, and metabolize the essence, qi, blood, and body fluids. In yin and yang, yin-yang theory, most of you have ever heard about this, yin and yang. Yin, actually, yin for yin, yang, and qi, these 3 terms as the only 3 terms as we can directly use the Chinese pinyin worldwide. Yin and yang theory is seemingly quite simple, just the 2 terms, the Chinese pinyin. Seemingly simple, but this theory serves as the central paradigm of everything in the world in Chinese medicine. The material substances of the world can be broadly associated with in movement, function, process, and the communication can be broadly associated or ascribed to yang. So Chinese medicine, by applying the yin-yang theory to or the phenomenon or the objects to understand the structure of the body, to explain the onset of the certain health condition, to diagnose and to conduct the health intervention. 5 elements. If you refer to other textbooks or reference books, the term 5 elements is translated in many ways. 5 phases, 5 movements. The application of the 5 elements theory is quite broad, that any one of the translations can be correct depending on the context in which it is used. The theory of 5 elements is both a worldview and a methodology that says that the objects and the phenomenon in the universe could be divided into these 5 different categories of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. The movement of these 5 different categories creates a constantly evolving and changing world. Meridians and collaterals. The meridians collaterals are referred to Chinese language as Jing and Luo. This is best known as the lines on an acupuncture chart. Usually the acupuncture chart just show the 12 or 14 main meridians, but there are smaller networks which were called collaterals. The communication of the meridian and the collateral system forms a healthy person. The system is like meridians collateral system, the pathways to link the whole body. So this system is like a never-ending loop for passage of qi through the body. Next part is the diagnosis and the treatment. To create effective treatments, the practitioners must consider and understand the signs and symptoms, disorders, etiology, pathogenesis, diagnosis, pattern identification, and treatment according to the pattern identification. Signs and symptoms are the beginnings of any diagnosis and treatment between the patients and the doctors. Signs observations by the doctors, while symptoms are mostly complaints from the patients. Chinese medicine practitioner, they may ask questions about symptoms and observe the signs in order to understand what happened inside, to determine the correct disorder or pattern. Disease or disorder. In Chinese medicine, disorder is considered as a disharmony of yin and yang, which lead to damage to the internal organs and creates physiological and pathological changes. Disorder or disease is the result of struggle. In Chinese medicine, we call it the struggle between the zhengqi and the xieqi. Zhengqi refers to the anti-pathogenic factors, while xieqi refers to the pathogenic factors. During the process of the disease, there always exists some degree of a fight between these two, the anti-pathogenic factors and the pathogenic factors. Etiology and pathogenesis. Etiology or the cause of the disease, also called the pathogenic factors or pathogens, to explain the cause of a disease and their pathogenic characteristics. Asian and Chinese medicine practitioners, they classify the several etiological factors. We now divide Chinese medicine etiology into three categories: external, internal, or miscellaneous factors. Take external factors. Example, there are pathogenic factors invade the body from the outside, usually via the surface of the body, the mouth, nose. So basically, we have 6 external pathogenic factors: wind, cold, heat, summer heat, dampness, dryness. So this is the etiological factors. Diagnosis. The Chinese language for diagnosis has 2 components. In Chinese language, we say 诊断. 诊 refers to the examination, while 断 being a judgment of the disease or identified pattern. So basically, Chinese medicine involves 4 diagnostic methods. In Chinese language, we call it 四诊: inspection, listening, smelling, inquiry, and palpation. 望闻问切 in Chinese language. Some diagnostic methods are relatively easy to understand and conduct, while others, for example, observation of the tongue, pulse taking, can take many years to fully master. The process of diagnosis requires the clinical skills of observation and inquiry, along with the Chinese medicine theory. Pattern identification, the final diagnosis will identify and include both a disease name and a pattern name. For a person with a common cold, for example, there can be a number of different patterns, but with the clinical manifestations, here finally we have a pattern which is called wind cold exterior pattern, so that our treatment is according to this pattern, wind cold exterior pattern. The pattern can be based on different categories: the 8 principle, which is the fundamental one, or according to different pathogenic factors, according to the body constitutes, and 脏腑organs, or other categories. The last part I would like to share is that the traditional medicine in the international classification of diseases of WHO. I have joined in this program 10 years ago. Now I'm the managing editor for China. The international classification of diseases, and abbreviated as ICD, serves to record and report health and health-related conditions globally. So ICD ensures the comparison of digital health data and their comparability. In the ICD system, ICD contains, diseases, disorders, health conditions, and much more. During the 11th revision of ICD, traditional medicine has been included as a separate chapter. Now we established the traditional medicine chapter, module 1. This is a separated chapter. It provides a list of diagnostic categories to collect and report on traditional medicine conditions in a standardized and international comparable manner. As I said, this is just module 1. Module 1 means that this category of traditional medicine health conditions originated from Asian and Chinese medicine and now commonly used in China, Japan, Korea, and elsewhere around the world. Actually, this is quite a point regarding the comparison between traditional medicine and the other traditional medical systems in Asia, Pacific region. If you are interested in it, you can go to the ICD-11 official website of WHO, and if you scroll to the bottom to the chapter 26, the supplementary chapter regarding traditional medicine conditions. Basically, two categories. You see disorders, and the other one is the patterns. If you open the subcategory, you can see different categories of disorders and different patterns of traditional medicine, because this is not just the traditional Chinese medicine. It's, we still have the traditional Japanese medicine and the Korean Japanese, Japanese combo medicine and the Korean traditional medicine. And now we are developing the module two, which derived from Indian traditional medicine system. It's already started and being established. Yes, this is the last one. So this is because time is really limited. So this is what I would like to share you regarding traditional medicine and Chinese medicine in particular. And I'm hitting the time, so later we have still have some time to take a discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Xu. For those of you who would like to learn more about the fundamentals of traditional Asian medicine, as we disperse into the breakout rooms, Dr. Xu will remain in the main room for another 20 to 30 minutes to answer questions, any generic questions that you have on traditional Asian medicine. That was very helpful for all the beginners to the traditional Asian medicine field, and it was very clear in general. Thank you very much. So as you all know, in a few minutes, everyone will go to the breakout rooms of a more specific topic that you're interested in to listen to presentations, ask questions, and discuss. But before that, we're going to briefly introduce the topics of each panel to give you more background. We will first start with the origins and flourishing of traditional medicine in Asian countries, introduced by, once again, Dr. Flowers.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. So in the history panel, it'll be Daniel Trembiola and myself, so we're going to talk about the history. It is for people who are interested in history. So that means, so Daniel's a historian of Japan, I'm a historian of Korea, mainly, and China. So we're both going to do presentations on particular topics, and then we're open for questions. And basically we're arguing that history matters, and that to understand medicine, we need to understand historical context. Yeah, that's our sub-panel. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers. And then for the applications of traditional medicine in COVID-19 post-recovery management, it will be introduced by the Director of Logistics at Hopkins Asian Medicine, Guangyan Li.
All right. Yes. So I'm just gonna give a brief introduction for the sub-panel. So basically, as sorry, just give me a second. I'll come back very soon. I'm experiencing a little tech issue, so just a minute.
Do we need to go to, oh, never mind.
All right, yeah, sorry guys. So traditional Chinese medicine has been increasingly popular since the pandemic for its ability to relieve many COVID symptoms like fever, cough, sore throat, and difficulty in breathing, especially. And Chinese herbal medicine has treated many patients and proved its effectiveness. As the pandemic goes, we discovered that a notable portion of the COVID patients developed long-lasting symptoms that last for weeks, months, or even years without recovering, like coughing. Some people experience tiredness or fatigue that really interferes with daily life. A lot of people experience difficulty in breathing and change in smell or taste, and they really last for a long time. So we call these symptoms long COVID or post-COVID symptoms. Among the self-reported patients, 13.3 developed long COVID after 1 month and 2.5 after 3 months. And among the patients who were hospitalized after 6 months, 30% of them actually got long COVID. And 2 to 4 million people are out of work because of long COVID. So we can see that long COVID really impacted patients' lives negatively. And so the difficulty is long COVID patients, they go through extensive testing, but the testing result doesn't show any abnormality. So there's no way for Western doctors to treat these kind of symptoms, but their symptoms are very real because they are pretty severe. And currently there aren't any drugs developed for treating long COVID, and only a few FDA approved drugs are antiviral drugs, and they don't really directly treat the symptoms. So the efficacy of modern biomedicine is not very satisfactory. On the other hand, traditional Chinese medicine has effective ways of relieving symptoms through restoring balance of qi in the human body. For example, we have all kinds of treatment. The most common one is different combinations of herbal medicine. They can be used to treat different symptoms for long COVID. And we also have acupuncture, moxibustion. They can be applied on specific acupoint based on their association with the organ or the organ systems. There are also self-intervention like exercising, foot bath, and emotional counseling. And in the year of 2020, traditional Chinese medicine was involved in the treatment of 92% of all the hospitalized patients in China. And according to Dr. Liu Qingquan, the director of Beijing Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine, while biomedicine targets the virus itself, traditional Chinese medicine applies various personalized methods to eliminate the virus culturing environment. So for us as traditional medicine enthusiasts, and we also hope that the role traditional medicine serves in the pandemic can help attract more people's interest and correct some unjustified stereotypical opinions. So today, the long COVID sub panel speakers, we have two of them. They're going to talk about their experience and research with traditional Chinese medicine treating and intervening long COVID, as well as COVID. They will present real cases and data of the treatment, also answering questions about how traditional Chinese medicine can help intervene long COVID. So if you're interested, you can join breakout room 2 later after the break, actually before the break, and then you'll be able to hear about the long COVID sub-panel speaker presentations. You can also participate in the Q&A session. Yeah, so that's the introduction.
Thank you. And lastly, for the integrating modern scientific methods into traditional herbal medicine research panel, we will have Dr. Chen for the introduction.
Excuse me, should I give a short introduction?
Yes, if you can give a short introduction for your sub-panel. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So Yeah, I would like to introduce some application of modern techniques in the research of traditional Chinese medicine. And I think with the traditional Chinese medicine has a long history. I mean, more than 7,000 years ago. So how to decipher the real effects and its detailed mechanisms of traditional medicine? It is a big question. I mean, in the front of us, and we try to utilize the modern technique from Western medicine to explain how TCM plays its protective role or its therapeutic role, and try to find its effective components of the from the useful decoctions or some natural herbal medicines. And I think there are several layers of techniques that we can utilize. The first layer is in vivo study. So we can do clinical observation. We can get some data from directly from patients in the clinic, and of course we can do some in vivo study with animal models, for example, mice and rats. And so from some organs or serum from the animals or from the patients, we can do a lot of research with multiple omics. For example, genomics, protein mix, and metabolomics. And after that, I think there is increased use of organoid. That means 3D culture organ, that we can do the research ex vivo. And of course, the cell culture system is the mostly used for research platform. For example, we can do a lot of experiments of immune regulation with different strains of cell lines, or with primary cells from mice, from health donors, etc. For example, we use macrophages, monocyte-derived macrophages, to detect the role of anti-inflammatory medicine. And we can detect the secretion of cytokines. So we know that the cytokine store is very important in the pathogenesis of COVID-19. So it is important to detect how the levels, we should know the levels of different cytokines in serum or in organs. So there are a lot of methods can be utilized to detect it. For example, ELISA, CBA method, or Luminex, or MSD. So a lot of experimental methods can be utilized. And for our immunologist, I think the FACS, fluorescent sorting fluorescent associated cell sorting. So this method is really important for us to tell which cell type or which subtypes of immune cells and how so what's the expression levels of molecules on the cell surface, etc. And for the signaling pathway in cells, we can use Western blot to detect the phosphorylated forms of proteins, especially for important signaling proteins. So after all of these experiments or the different layers of experiments, that what can we get from the modern research of traditional Chinese medicine? I think that there are mainly two benefits from modern research. The first one is that we can know how TCM plays its role and what's the main component and how they play the detailed molecular mechanisms. That helps us to know why TCM treats patients very well. So the second one is that we can also develop the application of TCM. For example, after we decipher the useful decoction, for example, in the treatment of COVID-19, and we can know that there are several components, several compounds are really effective in different ways. Then we can prepare a mixture of these compounds and to have a very solid effects of this mixture, and we can control the batch stability, and also we can exclude the side effects that we don't want. I think it is I mean, maybe one pathway that we can expect. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zhen. We will now open up the breakout rooms. Everyone in the audience can choose to enter a breakout room, or as we mentioned earlier, if you have more generic questions regarding traditional medicine, you can stay in the main room and talk to Dr. Xu for about another 20 to 25 minutes. The first presentation in the COVID panel will be in Chinese, but the slides will be in both languages. In the Q&A and discussion part of each breakout room, you can ask questions in any language that you prefer, and our event moderators will help communicate if necessary. We hope everyone continues to enjoy today's event, and can someone open up the breakout rooms? Yeah, so as you can see in the breakout rooms list, it is labeled by the topic, and you can simply click join to hear the following presentations. For each panel, the presentations will start in a few minutes after all the audience settle in. Thank you.